Welcome to BuildWise, a podcast where construction meets wisdom. Join us as we explore ins and outs of the construction industry. This is stupid. Do it again.
It was funny.
Well, I was smiling.
I know. I was trying to get you extra smiley. Get ready.
Welcome to the BuildWise podcast where construction meets wisdom. Join us as we explore the ins and outs of construction and in the construction industry. Share insightful tips, dive into the latest trends. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started in construction, BuildWise is your go-to podcast for valuable insights. Let's build a smarter, wiser future together. Like and subscribe now, and stay tuned for a foundation of knowledge in every episode. I am your host, Dan O'Neill, and we are going to be chatting about what, Bree?
I just want to hear some stories.
Want to hear some stories, huh?
Yeah, I really do.
Like what?
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure you have a well of them. But
That's a deep subject.
you know,
I got well stories too.
have you have dug wells?
I have.
Yeah. Out in
Gotta be careful you don't get in over your head.
I am not quick today. Normally I have something quick to come back with, and I'm like, crickets. You know what? I'm gonna insert some little cricket sounds.
Put a little tinfoil hat on.
No, not a tinfoil hat. That's not even used correctly. A tinfoil hat's like those conspiracy theory people. Oops.
Well, or maybe it keeps your thoughts inside your head.
Yeah, but I want my thoughts out because they're very valuable.
Oh boy.
I don't know. Tell me some stories. So I know one. I remember one story when you were doing a restaurant in Orange County. I think it was called Canyon Lounge, and some lady stepped onto your job site. I actually don't remember all the details, so I don't know.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. We get this lawsuit that she tripped on her job. Like, we had no idea. And the job was inside. Like, we weren't even doing anything outside. Well, I take that back. We were doing the patio.
Yeah, didn't you have like yellow tape and stuff?
We had yellow caution tape, and we had a big sign in the window. It said, O'Neill Construction, actually
Management.
O'Neill Management, but blah blah blah, and it said, if you come on site, please check in with superintendent. Well, they just finished the plaza, and so we were doing the insides, and then there was a what's that taco shop, or what was that across the way? It was
Rubio's?
Rubio's. Yeah.
I miss Rubio's.
So they parked in front of our project, and then they walked across. Well, she ran over the tape. She stepped over the tape, walked up, looked in the window to see what was going on inside the job site.
Yeah, so looky-loo.
Yeah, and then walked back. Well, she said she tripped over the electrical conduits that were sticking up that the caution tape was attached to.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're stepping onto a job site.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of stupid. But anyways, sued us for like $2.4 million because she couldn't have sex anymore. And I was like,
Is that for real? You're serious?
I'm dead serious. Yeah. Yeah.
Did it-
And I told
I thought you were making a joke.
I told the attorney, I said, well, I think I did the guy a favor. I goes, yeah, that cranky old bat.
I don't even know how that's possible.
So we go into depositions and everything
Did
like
she get
that.
electrocuted and it just fried everything internally?
She said she hurt in her back and she couldn't, do it anymore.
That's funny.
I didn't get into the details. I didn't want to know. But we were in depositions, and she goes, not she, but the attorney goes, so what part about this looks like a job site? And he shows a picture, and I said, well, the caution tape's kind of a giveaway. And I said, and then the big sign in the window that says you must check in with superintendent before you step onto the job site.
Yeah.
He goes, okay, that's enough. And then, yeah, it was kind of funny.
We don't prove my point or your
I
point.
know. And then we had a buddy of mine named George that was, superintendent on the job.
Jorge. Yeah.
And they interviewed him in the deposition, and the guy says, well, does that look like it's dangerous? And George goes, no, because I pick up my feet when I walk.
What are you talking about,
And
Georgie
he goes,
Porgy?
yeah, and I don't walk. He goes, what do you say? Something like, well, and I don't walk on the job sites where it tells me not to, or something like that. I don't know.
Like you use your brain.
Yeah, and so basically it came down to, they got like 75,000 out of all that because
They won?
the attorney when it was through our liability insurance, and so the attorneys basically just said it's going to cost us this much or more to litigate. Let's just be done with it. And
That's
I
insane.
was no, it was really bad. And I said, you guys, you can't cave into this stuff, but they did.
So they sued your O'Neill Management at the time. It was O'Neill Management. So they sued O'Neill Management, not the property owner.
I don't remember. They probably sued everybody, but we had our insurance had the property owners had our insurance cover them early on, so that was the additional rider that they had on the policy. So yeah, I think ours covered everything. But
yeah, but that's just crazy that somebody can. There's clear tape and signs, all posted, all blocked off, and yet they can still somehow get some kind of settlement out of it.
That's our society today. I mean, our society today, there's zero accountability. Zero.
Unless you are actually like a good person doing the right thing. I swear, I feel like when you're intentionally trying to do the right thing and then you even barely mess up, something happens to you. But the person who's intentionally going out and causing problems and
doesn't seem like anything happens to them.
I know.
It's the role, and it's
backwards
because the good person's being accountable and the other person's not. And our courts and stuff don't seem to recognize that.
Nope.
And I mean, if you look at all the stupidness on TV nowadays, courts don't recognize anything right. Biblically, it says what's right will be wrong, what's wrong will be right, and that's kind of the world we're living in right now.
I know.
But yeah. I mean, those things happen. We had he's talking about stories. I was doing a McDonald's up in Crestline, California. And there was this lady next door, and she had this, I think it was like a little coffee shop or a little burger shop or something like that. And she was just PO'd that we were even there doing this project. Well, she had a fence line that was encroaching onto the McDonald's property by, I don't know, it was like 2 feet. They'd put it up a long time ago. And so we were redoing everything, and I went over to her and I introduced myself. I am so-and-so. I'm the project manager for doing the job next door, and just trying to be a good neighbor. Here's my card. If you need anything, just let us know. Yeah. And I go, and by the way, we're going to be tearing down this fence line, and we're going to be putting up a brand new swale and fence and, re-grooming this whole thing. It's kind of on a little slope. And she's like, well, I want something for it, and I'm like,
you're encroaching.
Well, you're encroaching, it's like, but there were some, in back of my head, I was like, okay, it's been there for a long time. She could put into that whole, eminent domain thing.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll tell you what. I said, what would you like? And she goes, well, I need a cover, I said, okay, well, you know what? I'll tell you what. I said, when we put in the fence, I'll build you a little lean-to right here, and, no big deal.
Oh, that's nice.
So, yeah, you would think, right?
Well, because you don't have to do that. So
yeah. So
nice.
Anyways, time goes on, and I tell her, I said, listen, it's coming up to be winter. I said, you might want to think about getting that stuff out of there. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember if I sent her a letter or an email back then, but I sent her something. Stopped in to see her, and she left it all there, right? So then she sues us. And she sued Dolan Construction, McDonald's Corp., and the owner of the McDonald's, the franchisee. And she said because her stuff got ruined in the snow.
Oh, people.
So I go to court, and, well, it was funny. McDonald's Corp. Actually calls me, and they go, hey, do you got this handled? And I'm like, well, yeah, but I was waiting for the McDonald's attorneys to show up because I'd be like, ha ha.
Yeah, I got my backing.
Yeah.
The clown is in town.
I know. But, with a smile on her face and a yellow shoelace. But anyways, But the clown was me. So McDonald's Corp calls me and goes, "Hey, can you handle this?" And I went, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, we think you got it handled." So I'm like, "All right." So I go to court and they ask if there's any evidence we want to submit.
Yeah.
And I go, "Yeah, And I said, "Here's my site plan that shows all the boundaries. Here's the day I notified her. Here's what I offered to do for her, blah, 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 blah." And the judge, he gets it all and he allows me to speak first. And I just kind of explained to him the situation. And she got up there and she just goes into this rant. And he goes, ma'am, I need to stop you.
You emotional Karen.
He was the only judge that I've ever seen really stand up for accountability and what was right. And so he goes, "Ma'am, at some point in time in your life, you're going to have to take accountability for your lack of doing anything." He goes, "Why didn't you move your stuff like he said?
Yeah.
Why would you just let it sit there and get ruined and expect him to pay for it?" Well, anyways, he goes, "I fine for the defendant." And I'm like, "Oh."
You're like, man, I should have been an attorney.
Livid. I mean, fuming. And he stopped it he just stopped it.
Yeah.
So I go to the job site after that, and she comes pulling up, and she does this number and I'm standing on the fence line, and I'm like, "Whoa!" But yeah, she was gunning for me.
She was mad.
She was really mad, but yeah.
Well,
So that was a cool project though, because that one had that was the one with the earthquake fault.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Man, I see. I would probably actually go visit that McDonald's just to see if they allowed you to put the fault line. Oops.
Well, he had no fault insurance.
You know what's so funny though? It would have. I wonder if they did that because it would freak people out.
What?
If they allowed you to, I could keep dropping my pen. If they allowed you to put the fault line through the store, like paint it on the floor.
Well, no, it would have freaked people out. It's, and that was a corporate thing where they didn't want to raise any suspicions or problems or whatever.
Oh, God. Earthquakes aren't scary.
Everyone's like, "How'd you find the fault?" And I said, "Well, the tractor driver's digging," and I shook him right off his tractor. You won't believe how many people believe me.
They must not be from California. It's funny because I was just talking to my friend who lives in Tennessee, and she had heard the sirens, and they're dealing with tornadoes, and that scares me. And she was saying the same thing. Because she's from California, and she's just like, yeah, everybody here is terrified of earthquakes. But she goes, I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, a tornado? What do I do? And she panics and freaks out. But yeah, when you're from California, I don't know, the earthquakes are like no big deal. Have you ever built, this just made me think about this. Have you ever built in a state where there's tornadoes? What are the differences between building codes for like earthquakes and tornadoes? Are they similar?
Wind. I mean, and they are very similar. So have you seen some of those recent newscasts of all the hurricanes and tornadoes where it rips the roof right off?
Yeah.
Like one of them was, I think they said in excess of 100-mile-an-hour winds. It just peeled, brand new building. So I know it had to have been up to code. It just peeled that roof right off.
Yeah.
And I mean, Mother Nature is brutal.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes you can't stop it, and it doesn't matter how strong or sturdy the building is.
But yeah, no, I've built all over the United States, and I built in China.
China.
Back before it was China.
I know this is like a Trump thing, but one of my favorite videos of Trump is he was like talking, he was reading a paper, and he goes, like, just tosses it to the side. And it was so funny. But I think that was like in the same interview where he says, China.
Well, someone said something to the effect, I think, of like, how do you know? Oh, it's for the Wuhan virus. And they're like, he goes, well, he goes something like, how do you know, blah, blah, blah. He goes, because it was made in China.
Yeah. When did you go to China again? I know I was really
it was
little.
a long time ago, and it was for the Home of Tomorrow, and it was in this big $40 million complex, which back then was probably today's time. It's probably 60 million or 80 million,
Yeah.
and it was really interesting there.
Yeah, you said they were like children soldiers ready to shoot you, huh?
Yeah, they were young, man. They had it's like the uniforms didn't fit them, and they're like dripping wet. Like they were just in this big old uniform.
Were you allowed to
and they
take
had-
pictures of that or no?
No.
'Cause I was gonna say I never saw
And
anything.
we had an interpreter, and we had they had this electrical panel, like temporary electrical panel, and it was probably went from that wall to that wall, and it was all open, like wires, bare wires, big old wires, and high voltage, metal tin roof, and it was all open to the elements.
Yeah.
Wires running through the ground with puddles, and and it was crazy. And then this big facility was it was huge. It was a big convention center kind of thing.
Yeah.
And in the footing, you're walking around the building, and they've got these big footings, and there's all these voids in it, and you'd see, like a void, and then like a rock or a brick it's like whatever they had laying around, they tossed into the footing.
Yeah. Do they get their materials from China?
I don't know.
Is it made in China, or do
I went
they
to-
want better quality?
I had to go get some tools and some different stuff, and I asked where the Home Depot was, and they were like, huh? And
well, yeah, they're not gonna have
so
a
they
Home
took me-
Depot.
well, they took me to their street. They had this street, and it was all these little shops, and that was basically their Home Depot. And you could
Interesting.
go into this shop and get some tools, and go to that shop and get some tools, or whatever. And it's they're out there on the corner going, waving at you to come over and look at their stuff. And
Yeah. Interesting.
I know it was very, very interesting. And that was back when that was so long ago. That was when America accidentally bombed the Chinese embassy in
I remember that.
somewhere, I can't remember. And we have pictures of us we are being escorted out of the country.
Yeah, it was scary.
We were told not to talk, and we were in the cab. And I think my brother-in-law Max has pictures of us kind of slouched down in the cab, and he's taking pictures of the group of Chinese people that went across the street and tore apart our U.S. embassy.
Oh, that's
And meanwhile,
so
we go
scary.
through the intersection and head straight to the airport, and I'm chewing my nails off, and the guard who's taking my passport, he's looking at me, and I'm like, oh great, I'm not getting out of China. And then he goes,
So what? Okay, so they bombed the embassy, and on accident, we bombed the Chinese embassy on accident, right?
evidently, yeah.
And I mean, you were already on your way to the airport. It just so happened timing wise, right?
No, we weren't supposed to be going to the airport.
Oh, they were like, get out of here.
We're like, get out of town.
Oh, wow. Who hired you to go do that job?
I don't remember. Well, actually, Max had a contract at the very last minute, and they had a sound system in it, a Xantech sound system, and I'd never even heard of Xantech, and
Yeah.
he hands me this manual that's like that thick, and he goes, "You want to go to China with me?" Well, at first he says, "You want to go to China with me?" And I said, "Sure, man, that sounds like fun." And he says, "Yeah, it's like a 10-day thing." I'm like, "All right, great." And I got paid, I don't know, pretty good money for it. And he goes, "Well, good." And he hands me this manual that's like this thick, and he goes,
Read that?
You got like 4 days to read this." And I'm like, "Oh."
Hey, if our government can read, documents like this in a night,
That's the problem. They don't read them.
I know. So did you read?
They have to
did
sign
you read
them.
that
They have
manual?
to sign them first to read them.
I know. Did you read that manual that was like this thick?
Which one? That one?
The Xantech?
Yeah. Yeah.
You read it? Wow.
I read it. I read through it, and then what I did was I took it with me, and I kind of indexed certain things, and then I just followed the thing, and believe it or not, I made it work.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all a bunch of
cool.
Xantech's, a bunch of infrared equipment, and it was pretty neat stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're still using it or not. I have to look it up. But.
Is it raining? It's raining.
Is it?
Do you hear it? And what was I going to say? Well, I remember you came back from China and you had all these like goodies. I actually still have that umbrella you got us, and you have that globe. Remember that globe?
That globe was cool. Yeah, that globe was
glass
cool.
globe.
About that big. I should bring it in here.
There's a hole that was like this big, and they painted it.
It's
really
it's like
cool.
a resin globe, and it has a hole in the bottom. And they had these long paint brushes that they kind of twirled into a ponytail kind of thing with a really fine tip, and they would go inside of that thing, and they would paint these just beautiful scenes on them.
Yeah,
it was gorgeous.
So crazy.
Yeah, and I bought Mom a tea set.
Oh yeah, I loved that tea set.
Like real china.
Does she have that still?
I think so. And
I gotta show the girls that.
And then I got dolls and different things.
Yeah,
and
I remember all of it.
Yeah.
It was cool. Alrighty, well, that was like a fun story time.
Was it?
Yeah, I like those stories when they're interesting and they're funny. Or we can
there's
make
a
it
lot
funny.
of funny stories we'll have to get into later. But anyways, I think we're just about out of time, right?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. I hope it was interesting. And if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share. We really appreciate it. And put this out there. If there's anything you guys would like to hear about or know about, or we can do, just put it in the comments, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Okay. Let me fix my hair.
Are you sure? Are you done playing with your hair?
No. I gotta look good for my audience. Just kidding. Go for it. You wanted to ad-lib it.
Well, I noticed on the last one you go, a 1, a 2, a 3. You left that in there, you dork.
Did I?
Yeah.
That might have been an accident.
I don't know. Let's see. Microphone's on. This is on. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Build Wise. We're the podcast where construction meets wisdom. Be smart about construction. That's the story for today.
Oh, my gosh.
No, I'm kidding.
I was like, wow, he really is starting to memorize this. And that's just not the case. You totally brain farted in that second line.
Well, yeah, I did.
And you're like, oh. Oh, gosh, that's funny. Construction story.
Why don't you take me to story time?
I still don't get your tattoo and work.
Huh?
This is tattoo. And, like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I'll show you.
You ready?
Boss, de plane, de plane.
I don't get it.